We're back on NVC. Logan Plant alongside Rev Valentine and Seth Macy. And part of my trip to Nintendo San Francisco was to interview Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser, both about the opening of the store, but of course we tried to squeeze in some other questions about Switch 2 and a few other things while I was there. And yeah, I actually didn't end up buying that much at the Nintendo San Francisco store because my interview with Doug was right after. I'm like, I don't want to walk in with this enormous
with a bunch of Nintendo merch.
Yeah, I just don't like to do that, right? I don't want to look like a fan when I'm there as a journalist interviewing the president of the company. So I just bought the mug, the pins, threw it in my backpack, and went in. Yeah, Jada was like hauling around these big 2 bags, and I was jealous because she didn't have to go do the interview afterwards. So
Jada went
much really cool
crazy
stuff.
On the
she'll
merch.
show that off on next
It's impressive.
Week, so.
She's the real deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, she said like, I spent almost a Switch 2 on Nintendo merch at the Nintendo San Francisco store for herself.
She had it all laid out in a photo, and it reminded me of like when like a local police department catches a drug bust and they like put all the cash and all the paraphernalia on the table. That's what Jada is dealing in contraband Nintendo merch.
Yeah, so she'll show off her haul next week. Oh, I should mention really quick, too. One of the most impressive parts about the store is there's a wall of amiibo. And in many cases, it is amiibo that have not been in print for 5, 6, 7, 8 years at this point, and they're back at Nintendo San Francisco. And one of the things I asked Doug was, you reprinted them for here. Do you have plans to put them into circulation elsewhere? And he essentially said, not right now. We want this to be a place for Nintendo collectors to come to round out their collection with things that they couldn't find before. And so I did buy the Wario amiibo from the Super Mario set, and it rang up at $12.99, which was what it was when it came out.
The normal price
10 years ago. Yeah. So they didn't make it a $15.99 or a $30 amiibo. Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting that was at that same price point. But I did talk to Doug Bowser in San Francisco and asked him about Switch 2 demand. And I think we'll start here with this quote. He said, as we look at our plans here in the US, we do believe we'll have production and supply that will allow us to meet consumer demand. We know there's been strong positive reaction to Nintendo Switch 2 early on, and we've seen that through our pre-orders, but we do have a plan to have a continuous flow of product that'll be available through the holidays. So it's sold out right now, but they're confident that they're going to be able to hit that 15 million mark that they've projected for their first fiscal year for Nintendo Switch 2. Reb, what do you think of the statement on availability from Doug?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, this is the most normal executive quote in the world. Like, what's he gonna say? No, I don't think we can meet demand. No, I mean, he's gonna say this. On the other hand, I mean, I know, and we wrote about this. We wrote about the initial sort of a flurry of Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders and places selling out. And we know that every time a listing does go up, again, to pre-order, it just kind of sells out immediately. But I mean, and Seth, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have seen like sort of a steady stream of like, oh, Switch 2 is up for pre-order over here. And then it goes away, and then it reappears again, and then it goes away. And I don't know. I mean, I don't think everybody's going to be able to get them who wants one, but it seems like they have an amount of them. There's going to be some in stores day one. I'm sure they're going to keep restocking throughout the holidays. Like, I guess what I'm saying is I'm not worried that this is going to be abnormal. And it doesn't sound like Doug Bowser is either.
Yeah, and people are still getting emails from the Nintendo store through that lottery that we all signed up for to get the invite to have 72 hours to purchase Switch 2. People are still getting those emails. I saw it as late as yesterday, Wednesday. They're still rolling through. Nintendo said that's their plan even through launch to continue that system of Switch 2 orders. So yeah, it does seem pretty good, I think. It seems pretty normal. I don't know, Seth, you're on the deal side. What's your take on how this has gone so far?
It's gone so much better than the PlayStation 5 and Xbox, which were a nightmare horror show that I never want to relive for multitudes of reasons. But I will say that the sort of like the retailer pre-orders, so Walmart, Best Buy, GameStop, those were available probably longer than people thought, but they haven't actually come back after the first 3 or 4 days. People were still getting them at Walmart. GameStop waited till the next day to start theirs, but I mean, I
think that's what I was thinking of, just that week of sort of rollout.
Yeah, that week was, I mean, the PlayStation 5 was like 15-minute bursts at ungodly time. Nobody knew. It was such a scramble. But like GameStop's, people were posting in response to me like, oh, my GameStop has like 33 or my GameStop has 50. Like, available to reserve, and that was kind of the secret way to do it. And then I talked to the guys at the GameStop in Augusta, Maine. Shout out to those dudes who don't listen to the show apparently because they didn't know who I was. And they said they had like 52, and it's like it's one of those small sort of those smaller, narrower stores. What's the word I'm looking for? Like a galley type store, and they had like 50.
A galley GameStop.
Yeah, it was a galley GameStop. So yeah, I think they got it. I think once it's released, I think we'll see another batch of it. However, for the holiday, like, I don't know, man. I think all bets are off. I think I know this is absolutely the thing that every kid is going to want. Every parent in America is going to be going crazy, and demand is definitely there. We had a meeting for IGN Live with a partner who's not in the game space at all, and one of them asked like if we had any leads on a Switch 2, and I said no, I'm sorry. But yeah, I also got the email from Nintendo. Yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay, yeah. But the bummer with that is, I don't think we've talked about it on the show yet because this was new last week, is that if you get the email from Nintendo, you can't just buy accessories. To be able to buy accessories, you have to check out with the console in your cart, which is kind of strange. You can't just get the invite from Nintendo. If you've already secured your console, you can't buy your Pro controllers, your cameras, your GameCube controllers, whatever. Although you can buy
No, you can't. You can't get the GameCube controller.
Yeah, wait, because I got the GameCube controller.
Oh,
yeah, in that pre-window before that went live on Tuesday, which the GameCube controller did go live for Nintendo Switch Online members. I secured one. There was a waiting line, but I think most people that wanted one seemed to get one before they sold out. So
it was slow if you stayed in the queue. Like Seth and I were talking the other day. I think you said you were in the queue for like an hour. I was in there for about that long too. I just had it open on my phone next to me while I was working and just kept tapping it to make sure it stayed awake. And after like, I'd say almost an hour, I glanced over and the screen had changed, but I did get one. So
nice. Yeah, and it's limit one per NSO account as well, so you can't get 4 to all play Smash Brothers with one unless you have 4 Switch Online accounts. But yeah, those were up, and I waited around for 30 minutes, I think, in the waiting room until I got one, so that was good too. Let's see. I asked Doug. I really, really wanted to get an answer just about what the conversations were like about the Mario Kart World pricing backlash, because all his quotes about this have been, it's about the longevity and the depth, replayability, the development time that's gone into the game. I've shared on this show why I don't buy any of that because of the pricing of the Nintendo Switch 2 edition games. It just does not check out. That the argument collapses for me when you factor those in. So I basically asked for, when the pre-order delay happened, pricing all went back to the drawing board. What were the conversations like? Were they expecting that level of backlash to the Mario Kart World price? He dodged the question the first time. I went back to it again, and all he had to say was, I think anytime you make pricing decisions, there's a level of backlash. And then the PR people wanted me to move back to ask questions about the store. So that's all that I really got on there. But he gave me the same answer about the depth and replayability of the game, and I still I don't buy that one. I don't like that one. And he pointed to Donkey Kong Bonanza at $69.99 as their variable pricing strategy. But I don't know. I'm still a little bit hung up on it, but it is what it is at this point. That's their messaging. That's what they're going with.
It's lame and bad messaging.
But as in the phrasing that every analyst I've spoken to has used over the last couple months, the market will bear it.
Yeah. I mean, there we go. Like, that's it.
People are going to buy it.
Lower the price, people. Stop caring about the price being lowered when it came time, when push came to shove. A lot of people bought that game. Another problem with their messaging is there's still like people who think that it's a $90 game if you buy it physically. That rumor got started. I don't know how and where, but it's not true. But I still hear people being like, it's $90 if you buy it physical.
It's not true, but also like Nintendo didn't put forth any effort to debunk it, which is actually sort of annoying. Like I reached out to them, a bunch of other journalists reached out to them and said, hey, like, we're seeing this on your website, but there's this rumor going around. Can you just like double confirm that this is not $90? Yeah. And they just ignored our emails. And they could have literally just said, no, that's not true. And then we all would have run it. And then, I'm sure there'd still be scattered pockets of the internet who believed it, but I don't think it would be nearly as widespread a weird sort of passive belief people have. Very odd. Yeah. The comms around this whole situation have been their PR strategy and their interaction with the public and press strategy around this whole thing has been odd.
Yeah.
I still think that they all got together and they drew straws to see who would be the first to make the announcement of prices. And Nintendo drew the short straw. And now, Xbox came a week later. And now PlayStation's rumored,
yeah.
I mean, I think we ran an article yesterday, here's where to buy a PlayStation 5 Pro before the price goes up to whatever, $800, like it's possibly going to be. But
it's inevitable.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're going to charge whatever they want for the game as long as people are buying it. And I know, people, you can't lower demand if you buy something at $79, and then, be mad because it was $80. That's not how a market system works. If you don't want something at a price, you don't buy it, and then the price will come down. Or, you watch everybody else play it and you just go over to your friend's house. Kick it with them for a little while. You haven't been over there in a long time anyway, so go say hi.
But something interesting about all the pricing stuff I did ask Doug was basically he said that they want to make Switch 2 as obtainable as possible. And that answer was in response to asking the price of that not going up after the pre-order delay and factoring in tariffs. And there was a line from Mr. Furukawa, Nintendo president over in Japan, who basically said that we're taking a little bit of a hit on our margins on Switch 2 compared to Switch 1 because our goal for this year is to rocket start our Switch 2 install base. So there probably were conversations. Is reading between the lines, they did talk about raising that price to go in line with the tariffs. They decided not to, and still the tariff situation is changing. Most recently, headlines about a pause between the United States and China. So yeah, it's interesting, but it sounds like they are going to try and keep Switch 2 at $450 as long as they possibly can, because there might come a time where market conditions indicate that it forces their hand and they do raise the price of this. So for as long as they can, they will keep it at $450. I asked him to what extent they can commit to that for launch and beyond, and basically he said we came back with that price to give our consumers comfort that they could purchase it at that price point. So yeah, they wanted to keep it there, and they did keep it there. So props to them for that. And then a week later, Xbox takes it on the chin with their price increases instead. So yeah, Nintendo doesn't look so bad anymore. I tried to prod about if there's going to be more Joy-Con colors, because at the Nintendo San Francisco store, you can customize a Nintendo Switch OLED like you've been able to do for many years in Japan, where you can pick what color left Joy-Con you have, you can pick what color right Joy-Con you have, you pick white or black dock, you pick the wrist strap color. So I basically asked, hey, is Switch 2 going to ever have anything like this at the Nintendo San Francisco store? And he was like, well, there's only one Joy-Con color right now, but we're thinking about it in the future. That's all I got there. But Nintendo's going to sell you more Joy-Con colors. I don't know. What do you think they're going to do? Because they're color coded with the inside of the unit, right? The edge of the Joy-Cons are that pastel blue and orange, and then the inside of the unit where the magnetic Joy-Cons snap in are that blue and orange. So you think that color is always going to be the same, and they'll just change the outer shell? Because that could really clash depending on what colors they pick. So I don't know what they do there.
I don't know. I didn't think about that. That's
I didn't think about that either. Yeah. Now I'm like, ooh, color theory. Yeah.
I mean, maybe they'll just switch to a default like white or black or something for the inside, and then have like on that strip that goes in, maybe like a marker of some sort in the correct color, so you can match them that way. I don't know. I'm not a designer.
Yeah, I just thought it was a surprising choice to permanently mark that inside of the console those colors. I thought that was an interesting choice based on how many Joy-Con people have liked to buy this generation to kind of design and color code their system. And now you have those that denote those colors all the time on the side of the unit. So that's kind of interesting. And then I think the other biggest thing that I asked Doug about was game key cards, because that's been a huge story for Switch 2 is the physical cartridge that doesn't actually have any game data on the cartridge. It's something you insert into the cartridge slot on your Nintendo Switch 2, and then it downloads all that game data from the Nintendo eShop. And so here's what Doug said. He said, quote, "When you look at game key cards for us, our goal with Nintendo Switch 2, similar to what we were able to accomplish on Nintendo Switch, is to have the broadest and deepest library of content we possibly can. And that includes our publishing partners. And game key cards are a way that our publishing partners are able to bring more content onto the platform, deeper and larger, more immersive content on the platform." Reb, you're shaking your head.
There's this phrase that CEO of Electronic Arts, Andrew Wilson, loves to say. Every single investor call that I listen to, he loves to say the phrase deep engagement. And I don't know what that means. He says it all the time. He wants to bring deep engagement to the players, deep engagement. And Doug Bowser did not say the words specifically deep engagement, but that's what this whole paragraph sounds like to me. It just sounds like deep engagement over and over. This means nothing. It like summarize this. It's basically him saying, we want more games on our platform. And that's not an answer to the question that you asked. So I don't know. Like, game key cards seem to be, I don't know, people seem to not be into those because I think maybe if you buy a physical game, maybe you're hoping that you don't have to sit through a download, and maybe you're hoping that you actually own the game that you purchase. And it seems maybe that's not a thing that is happening here. And so people are understandably frustrated, and he just doesn't want to answer for that because they're doing this for whatever reason they're doing it. But yeah, I didn't think much of this response. I don't think game key cards are making it so that their publishing partners can bring more games to the Switch 2 that they were not otherwise able to bring to the Switch 2. There's an eShop.
No, exactly. No, this whole answer, it's game key cards are a solution that make most people happy except consumers. Who does it make happy? It makes Nintendo's third-party partners happy because they are purchasing game key cards cheaper than a 64-gigabyte Nintendo Switch 2 cartridge would cost to manufacture for their physical run of their game. It's a cheaper thing to manufacture. We know that it costs more if you want to manufacture a game on a 64-gigabyte card than it does for this card, which has nothing on it. So that incentivizes third parties to continue to release physical versions of games in retail, of which Nintendo is still prioritizing its retail partners, like a Target, a Walmart, a Best Buy, a GameStop, something like that, where they sell physical games. This is a way for third parties to manufacture for cheap, still get something on the shelf to make their third-party partners happy and their retail partners happy, and then unknown consumer walks into a store and sees all these options on the shelf that they can buy. Because as we know from the financial report, still roughly 50% of Nintendo's software sales business is physical. It is a 50-50 split. No one else in the industry is anywhere close to that. Not even close. Nintendo dominates the physical market, and they're trying to keep it that way, while also bringing the cost down for their proprietary cartridges for third-party publishers. So Nintendo's happy, the retailers are happy, the third parties are happy. The only people that aren't are the consumers. So we'll see how the market kind of responds to game key cards, because I'm not sure how many people are going to want to buy that, because what people like about physical copies is that it's there. It's on the cartridge, on Switch specifically. That's the biggest boon for them, is that you plug it in, it's there. A license expiring, or a store shutting down, or a server turning off can't take that away from you. A game key card's not really the same story, because that is just a shell at the end of it. So yeah, I'm curious to see how the market will respond to game key cards, because
here's my cockamamie theory. I think that for the most part, people have already been conditioned to buying a game, putting it into their PlayStation, and then waiting, 45 minutes for it to download updates, and then restarting and then installing the update for another 35 minutes. So I think outside of, the crazy idiots like me who buy everything physical because I just love to surround myself with garbage that will eventually consume me, I think that most people won't even be surprised when they plug it in and it says, downloading data. They'll be like, oh, okay, this is just like the experience has been for the last 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm. I do sort of wonder what's going to happen. So, this is a decade plus down the road, but at some point, Nintendo will shut down the Switch eShop.
What?
It will not live forever. They will eventually move on to something else. That is simply the way of things. What's going to happen to all the people with game key cards then? Because you might not think, and maybe some people don't think too much about it right now. Like Seth, you said, they just sort of expect there to be a big download when they put it in. But, if I still have physical DS games that I can go stick in my 2DS and they'll still play just fine. Yeah. But if if they shut the servers off and I have like a game that I want to go download, I don't know if I can still do that. I don't think I can.
Right now on Wii U and 3DS, they shut those stores down now, last year, 2 years ago? I can't exactly remember. They shut those stores down. You can still go re-download past purchases.
You can?
You can still go, for now.
You might not be able to do that forever. And that might happen with the game key cards. You might have a game key card and put it in and then be like, wait, why don't I have this game? Or, the simple fact that Nintendo can revoke that license at any time. Yeah. It's digital.
No, what'll end up happening is a thriving piracy scene will leap up around in 10 years from now. So,
yeah. So no, I think we can track the Wii U and 3DS, kind of how that goes, because I don't think there is an end date right now, Seth. I think right now indefinitely.
I thought there was, but I'm
re-download. I'm not sure.
What about regular DS
purchases? Yeah, like DSiWare and WiiWare. I'm not sure if you.
I don't think you can get. Yeah.
Yeah, but those were never physical games, so that's like a different situation, right? These are retail games they started selling on 3DS and Wii U, so that will be the closest comp. If eventually they say, sorry, you can't re-download, I don't know, Wind Waker HD anymore on Wii U, that digital thing is gone, then that will kind of indicate the same will probably happen with your game key card. So it's weird because it's none of the convenience of digital with none of the benefits of physical. Game key cards are very strange. The only nice thing is that you can lend them out, so you can essentially lend a digital code to somebody because I can hand my game key card to Reb and she can install the same game on her Switch and play it as long as she has the game key card. So in that way, it acts like a physical game.
I can lend you my physical game. I can lend you my digital game. Yeah. I can lend you anything else now that I want, apparently.
Only if we're in the same Nintendo Switch family. Then you can lend me your digital game.
Logan, do you want to be in my Nintendo Switch family? You can borrow.
I don't know, because we're not in the same household, and if you violate their end user license agreement, they could brick your Switch. That's the other new headline.
Oh, right, yeah. Nobody tell Nintendo I'm in a family group with 7 of my friends.
No, I don't think that's part of it. It's like if you hack your Switch and stuff like that. And people really, really kind of were freaking out about that online this week, but the other guys do that too. That PlayStation's the same way. Like they can permanently ban your PSN account if you hack your PlayStation or something like that. It's the same thing. I don't know. I don't think it's that huge of a deal. And then last thing I wanted to bring up that I asked Doug was I asked him basically, is 2026 the end for first-party Switch 1 software? We have Rhythm Heaven Groove coming out next year and Tomodachi Life Living the Dream. And I said, is that the end? Or are you planning to support these two pillars kind of together continuously into 2027 and beyond? And his quote is, I resist putting time parameters around it. So no firm answer either way. But then basically he went off into an answer saying, and remember, you can play Switch games on Switch 2 as well, which... yes, you can. So you can play Rhythm Heaven Groove on Switch 2, which is how we probably all will. I just dropped something. Sorry, that was loud. But yeah, so that's probably how we'll all do it. But yeah.
I predict we will get one last weird Kirby spinoff in early 2027. And that'll be the end.
Probably. Yeah, I think so too.
But they, for some reason, did not want to make exclusive to Switch 2 or something.
Yeah, like a Kirby's Dream Buffet 2. Or Kirby's Fighters 3. Or something like that. Any other questions from either of you about just my time face-to-face with Doug Bowser? Anything you want to know?
Is he a tall man?
I'm taller than him, I think. I think he's probably about 6.
Yeah, but you're taller than a lot of people.
You're decently tall, though.
Yeah. Not as tall as Seth, but I think taller than Doug, I think is what I would say.
No. Yeah. It's always a shame that when they make the executives, they make all the really cool executives available for, like... the interviews where I don't really have a lot of questions, like about the store or about the opening of the theme park. They don't want to answer any questions about the things that the people want to know.
You get to interview Shigeru Miyamoto about the new juice cups at Nintendo World.
Yeah.
He designed them. He signed off on the design.
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean, Reb. And I had that experience a little bit too, because they invite us to come talk to Doug about the store, and they say it's about the store. But they know we're going to try and fit in some other stuff. That's just our job too. It's our job to squeeze in other questions. But it's always a fine line to walk of, well, I want to respect what I was invited here to do, but I also don't want to just be a PR amplifier and just give them 20 minutes to basically put their talking points on IGN.com. And they know that, and we know that.
Everybody's playing the game.
Yeah, so we talked about the store for most of it, but I did squeeze in some other questions, like about the game key cards and stuff like that. But there's a point, right? I pressed him on the Mario Kart World price, and then he was basically, we're here to talk about the store. And that's when I backed off, and I was like, okay, I got my few in. We'll go back to do what we came here to do. But no, I think people give Doug Bowser too hard of a time. I do, just because he's not Reggie. I think that, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, people don't feel like they have that same relationship with Doug as they did with Reggie, which is true. He's not as public facing in Nintendo Directs. Yeah. He doesn't have the same meme factor.
They're mad that they don't have a parasocial relationship with Doug Bowser.
Yeah, I honestly think so. Yeah. Yes, I do think, make of that what you will. I'm not here to judge or make a take on that, but I think that is something that Reggie was partially so successful because when he was speaking, you felt like Nintendo fans felt like he was speaking on behalf of them. Like he's in their corner. And he's an executive at a business, but he somehow managed to walk that line and make people feel that way. Doug Bowser just isn't as public facing. He's almost never in Nintendo Directs. And he doesn't have that same kind of, I don't know, cachet with the audience that Reggie did. But it's undeniable. He's steered Nintendo of America in a very strong direction. He's very kind whenever I've had the chance to speak with him. I enjoy interviewing him. We get along well. And yeah, I think that he speaks very well. Yes, it's those very corporate statements that he's media trained to say. But no, I think that I'm a big fan of Doug Bowser. That's what people ask me a lot after I speak with him. It's like, well, what do you think of him? Like, he's not Reggie. I'm like, no, he's not. But he's doing a good job, and he's nice to talk to. He's respectful to the media, and I appreciate that about him.
I think it's not entirely his fault either that he, I guess, doesn't have a parasocial relationship with thousands of fans, because I feel like Nintendo has just been moving in that direction generally. I mean, it's kind of the thing I've been complaining about this entire podcast so far. Nintendo has been withdrawing from being like closer to the public in certain ways, from being closer with media and like offering more opportunities. And then, like, I mean, you can see it in their Nintendo Directs. Their Nintendo Directs they had so many like really silly, memorable Directs that involved executives getting up to hijinks and shenanigans, and that made them seem very personable, and it gave it a lot of flavor. And now, every Nintendo Direct, I say with love, as someone who loves Nintendo Direct, they all kind of look the same. They're all the same, and that's
yes, they are.
You can have all sorts of opinions on that we don't need to get into about like how we should feel about corporate executives and what the game here really is. But it is a change. It is a noticeable change, and I'm sure Doug Bowser had something to do with that. I'm also sure that a lot of it was dictated to him from on high.
Yeah, I mean, we also like Reggie and Iwata had a chemistry and a real actual friendship that came through, and they were able to capitalize on that as a marketing strategy, that these guys got along really well and were fond of one another. And, like Reggie's just like, I obviously never met Iwata, but Reggie's like an enormous giant man.
Very
He's
tall.
8.5 feet tall. I watched him one time eat a pine tree whole. But, yeah, and so like I don't know where I was going with this.
I don't know either.
But they just played off one another really well, and that lent itself, like somebody in marketing, just like a light bulb went off, and they're like, we should do this, and they were game for it. And now, I think Doug Bowser's, he doesn't really have that sort of opposite person or person in Nintendo Japan who would sort of complement his style. And he's
because it's the same over there too. I think most hardcore Nintendo fans could. But most Nintendo fans probably could not pick President Shintaro Furukawa out of a lineup. I don't think people even know what he looks like. He's never in presentations like Iwata was presenting them in Nintendo Direct. Nintendo Direct was like Iwata's brainchild. And and Furukawa and Bowser have both just kind of shifted back into that purely, I'm running the business role. And it's interesting, and this is another thing we've talked about, is that I think that's partially what led to the level of ferocity around the backlash for some of the Switch 2 stuff, is because it wasn't these people that they loved that delivering these announcements to you that in some cases weren't the best announcements. But I also think Reggie kind of passive-aggressively retweeted a clip from Nintendo Voice Chat when he guested on this podcast, and he told the story of Wii Sports becoming a pack-in game on Wii, and basically Reggie is the one that made that happen. NCL is always very resistant to pack in their software because they want to get the most value out of something, and Reggie said, no, we need to package this in North America or people aren't going to get it. They're not going to understand what Wii is. He won that battle. We all know what happened. And the day he posted that was the day that it was announced that Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour is $10. So
I didn't know about this.
We don't know the inner dynamics of Doug's pull at NCL in Japan, but I think Reggie was kind of hinting it's not the same as what I had, and I think that is fair. I think that Welcome Tour costing $10 is a very Bowser Furukawa era thing. I don't think it would have in the Reggie and Iwata era, which is fine. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but there are differences, and it's interesting. But please go check out my Doug Bowser interview on IGN.com. It's written only. They didn't let us film it this time around. We talk about a lot of cool stuff. I also ask him basically, like, the rest of the industry is really struggling, and you're not. Like, what's your plan to protect Nintendo kind of from the hardships everyone else is facing? And he of course tied it back into a talking point around the store, but basically said that we have all these touchstones for our IP with theme parks and with movies and with retail locations. And Nintendo lives off its characters, and it has like a PlayStation store. I think they tried to open that, and I don't think it stayed open. Like, I think a Nintendo store has the cachet that other ones don't. just because of
I'm remembering
the stable
an
of characters.
Xbox store at one point, or maybe I'm misremembering.
It's not exciting in the same way. I mean, I say
No.
that biased on Nintendo Voice Chat and not on the other two console podcasts that we have. But the vibes are not the same.
No.
Yeah, the Nintendo store is more like a Disney store, of which there are many around the country. That's what it captures.
Are
that
there
closer
still?
than like a Microsoft store. Yeah, there's still Disney stores.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for watching this clip from Nintendo Voice Chat. Be sure to catch the full episode over at youtube.com/IGN Games. New episodes of NVC drop every Friday on IGN Games, IGN.com, and your favorite podcast platforms. With the Nintendo Switch 2 finally here, there is so much to dive into. We appreciate you tuning in, and don't forget, NVC is the only place you can get the thing.